Hello, everyone. Can you see us? Can you hear us? We are here. We're the Library Marketing Department at HarperCollins Library Love Fest. So glad you can join us today. I'm Virginia Stanley. Who's with me?
Chris Connolly here. Great to see you all.
Reporting live, Lainey Mays.
And we have so many books to get to. And so thank you. Hello from Alabama and Montana and the Jersey Shore and Washington State. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to check out our presentation. So typically what we do is start with a bunch of housekeeping notes, but we're going to do that later and jump right into the books because we always find ourselves rushing. So we have housekeeping and we're going to talk about that later. We're going to disappear so you can see the slides, and then we'll be back. But you'll hear our dulcet tones. So thank you again. And Lainey, want to go to the first slide?
Yes, and I put in the comments, so you can click that link. But the next slide, we have our Bernie slide, of course. After we heard that, we had to put the mittens in.
Oh wait, can you go back? There it is.
He's
do a presentation.
barely on there.
He could present some of the titles.
Yeah. On the next slide, you'll find a link, and that will give you a list of all the titles we're talking about in a Excel format. But at the very top of that list, there's an Edelweiss catalog if that's how you prefer to take notes and see eGalleys, etc. So I'll put it in one more time, but just Feb title list. It's a bit.ly link. You can go. So
okay. And again, we'll be here for the next 2 hours, but there's also our email addresses there, and we're here for you, whatever you need us to do. Read you a book, tell you about a book, bring you a sandwich, whatever. We're one-stop shopping for love.
And just a quick technical note, if you at any time during the presentation, if you're having issues with your video, you can hover over the video and there's a little gear icon and you can turn down the resolution for the video. And a lot of times that will resolve any lag or any issues you might have. Of course, there will be 0 issues, but in case there are, just know that.
Yes. Okay. No issues. No issues.
No issues.
And here we go. Off to the races. Her Heart for... Oh, so now we're going to... Goodbye. Okay. So this is Her Heart for a Compass by Sarah Ferguson, Duchess of York. We had tons of great media response when we announced this book last month. You're going to be hearing a lot about this, lots of publicity. So Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York, and the ex-wife of Prince Andrew, is a best-selling memoirist, children's book author, and film producer. This is her first work of historical fiction, and it was inspired by her family's history. It's a Victorian costume drama that chronicles a rebellious young noblewoman's coming of age during a period of great technological and social change. We meet Lady Margaret. She's expected to marry well, but instead flees repressive upper-class expectations. Shunned by polite society, she throws herself into charitable work and resolves to follow her heart. This is a story that crosses 2 continents, a page-turner filled with intriguing history, unforgettable characters, rich atmosphere. This is written with Scottish novelist Marguerite Kay, the author of 50 historical romances. It's a story of duty, family, love, and a woman's yearning for freedom and independence in a very strict and controlling society. It's got all the elements that historical fiction fans crave. And the book has the blessing of Queen Elizabeth. And Sarah Ferguson had complete access to the Royal Archives at Windsor. Very excited about that book. That's Heart for a Compass by Sarah Ferguson. Next.
Okay, so The Hidden Palace by Helene Wecker. Oh boy, this is a magical novel. This is the follow-up to The Golem and the Jinni, which was a New York Times bestseller, made so many best of and end of the year lists, and was beloved by librarians and patrons alike. So we are returning to that world and 2 beloved characters, Hava the Golem and Ahmad the Jinni, who find themselves in Manhattan leading up to World War I. And their lives become intertwined again. Their relationship is developing. And they are, as so many things happen with the immigrant experience, trying to blend in while still maintaining their own lives and their own identities. So these are two unforgettable characters who inadvertently, through the people they interact with, set the course of adventures, twists, and turns from characters both in the previous book and new to this story. But I think it's important to note with this beautiful literary fantasy novel that you can pick it up. You don't have to have read The Golem and the Jinni. So this is going to be for new fans and old fans alike. Just a really special, beautiful, unforgettable novel by Helene Wecker that really blends Yiddish and Middle Eastern mythology and iconography in such a beautiful, unique way. Love this book. It's coming in June. That's The Hidden Palace.
Okay, and just a quick note before I go into this title, because I see some questions. We're going to do housekeeping in the middle, but we'll go over e-galleys and access them. But some people asked if there are e-galleys available books. If there are, it's at the bottom of the slide. It says Edelweiss and or NetGalley if it's available. So just letting you guys know. Okay, so Vortex by Catherine Coulter coming in August. So we're very excited to welcome Catherine to the William Morrow family. This is number 25 in the best-selling FBI series. Happy anniversary. And these books often hit the number one New York Times list. And like I said, this has been published. She's been with another publisher, and now we're welcoming her to William Morrow. So we're very, very excited. I'm very honored. And it's a thrilling series where we follow FBI agents Sherlock and Savage. Fans love this relationship between the wife Sherlock and the husband Savage, both FBI agents. They're very savvy investigators. Savage is more intuitive and emotional, empathetic, whereas Sherlock's more nuts and bolts, practical. And they have a sexy chemistry, but they're also very different people in their investigations as well. And then they come back and have this chemistry. The books often they're investigating two very seemingly different crimes and suspects at the same, and they intersect sometimes at the story's end. And in this one bad guy in Vortex is this rich, preppy, entitled, arrogant guy from an old money family in Boston, and he may have been involved in the death of a female college student 7 years previously, and now he's running for New York mayor in the city. So Mia is a young reporter, and she's working with Sherlock to take him down. But she also has a personal connection to the missing girl. And so, maybe there's more. Of course, there's multiple stories as all of her books, but we'll see what comes together and dive in with this book. There was a reveal in an excerpt on Crime Reads, which you can go read, and it is very haunting. I put that link in your notes, so please go check it out. So that's Vortex by Catherine Coulter.
Okay, Read Dangerously by Azar Nafisi, who is the best-selling author of Reading Lolita in Tehran, which has sold almost 1.5 million copies worldwide. I don't think there's a writer working today who more beautifully and poignantly explains the power of literature to not only, in this case, rebel against oppressive regimes, but also to reach across the aisle and heal. And that's really what this book is about. Azar takes us through some powerful works of literature from the likes of Toni Morrison, Salman Rushdie, James Baldwin, and more, and uses them as a tool. And this is structured as a series of letters to her father, where she guides us through these really important texts, how to read them and why, and what they can do in this, very fractured time we're living in to, again, heal, to learn, to advocate, and to grow. She is just such a powerful advocate for reading, and I think this is exactly what we need in this time of fake news and again just political upheaval. So this is coming in August, a very important, powerful, valuable addition to your collections. So that's Read Dangerously by Azar Nafisi.
Okay, What White People Can Do Next by Emma Dabiri is coming in May. It's a guide to questioning the meaning of whiteness and creating an anti-racist world. And I know many of you joined us for our Facebook Live where we did anti-racist reads. And this is going to be perfect as a next read. This is from the author of Twisted, The Tangled History of Black Hair Culture. Emma's a regular presenter on BBC and a contributor at The Guardian. The idea for this book came from a viral Instagram post, which I linked as well. And it's kind of a slideshow format, and it's a really great read, and the author welcomes you to share. So please go check that out later. The idea came from this post, and this is going to be a collection of essays that help you be agents of change and fight against racism. And Emma draws on both academic discipline and lived experience to probe those ways and see how we can combat white supremacy. And so some of the actions which are in her outline on that slideshow are stop the denial, interrogate whiteness, realize the shit is killing you too. And from the slide, I just have a quick little note. She said, "A lot of this might be uncomfortable, but discomfort itself cannot be the end goal. I'm no fan of po-faced right-onness, so let me leave you with these words from the feminist anarchist Emma Goldman. A revolution without dancing is not a revolution worth having." And I think that's a good taste of what this book is going to be. You know, it's uplifting, but really practical and short and instructional. The material is perfect for anyone who's just learning about allyship or has done a lot of research and is looking for the all-inclusive general guide. Very timely, and you can check out Emma's Instagram at Emma Dabbery for more about her and see this amazing post. That's what white people can do next by Emma Dabbery.
Painting the Light by Sally Cabot Gunning. This is the author of the critically acclaimed books, The Widow's War, Benjamin Franklin's Bastard, Monticello, A Daughter and Her Father, just among some of the books that she's published. Now she offers another sweeping historical novel about a young widow coming into her own and rediscovering her passion in the aftermath of her husband's untimely death. This is rich in time and place, and it's a meditation on love, loss, and reinvention. She is a beautiful writer. She sets this book in Martha's Vineyard in 1898. And in the first part of Ida Russell's life, she had been a painter. She was able to walk the halls of Boston's renowned museum school, enrolling in art courses that were once deemed unthinkable for women to take, and showing a budding talent for watercolors. But no more. She's now Ida Peace. She is a resident of a seaside farm on Vineyard Haven and wife to Ezra, a once charming man who has become an inattentive and altogether unreliable husband. He takes off for moments at a time, and he's just never around. She's never surprised when he doesn't show up for dinner. Meanwhile, Ida has left her love for painting behind. But when Ezra is lost at sea in a storm, Ida is left to sift through the remnants of her husband's life and work, and she has to learn to separate truth from lies and then set a course to reclaim her life. This is a portrait of an unconventional woman and a considered meditation on grief, persistence, and reinvention. It's also a compelling portrait of a woman who faced tremendous obstacles in her life and her art because of her gender. This will be great for book clubs, and book clubbers should definitely check out Sally's website, sallycabotgunning.com. This is a great website, features a lot of behind the book section for all of her books, offering reading excerpts and the story behind the story, which I love, reading guides, and a lot of extras, photographs and charts, and just really wonderful things. She's just a wonderful writer, and there's just a great resource there on that website. So that's Painting the Light by Sally Cabot Gunning. Me again, Black Girls Must Die Exhausted by Jane Allen. This is a huge title for us for summer 2021. You're going to be hearing a lot about this book in the coming months. This is an Own Voices trilogy about a self-possessed young Black woman on track to creating the life she's always dreamed of until life throws her a curve. Black Girls Must Die Exhausted. That's something that 33-year-old Tabitha Walker always heard her grandmother say. Of course, the grandmother was referring to the 1950s and the civil rights era, but Tabitha never felt that age-old adage applied to her. Her dreams were well underway, good job, a boyfriend that was marriage material, she had money in the bank, was all looking good. But then she discovers that she has fertility issues, and the most important goal on her list is in jeopardy, a family. She wants to be a mom. So she explores the reaches of modern medicine and tests the limits of her friendships, hoping to salvage the future the way she always dreamed it should be. But the fight is all-consuming, demanding a steep price that forces an honest reckoning for nearly everyone in her life. And as she soon learns, her grandmother's age-old adage just might be true. Black Girls Must Die Exhausted. The author is, this is such a cool backstory. This was a self-published series, and we are so thrilled to have this book on our list. The author calls this book Chick Lit with a Conscience. It's a perfect blend of highly readable commercial fiction and important relatable issues such as infertility, Black maternal health, mental health, infidelity, familial and romantic love, and female friendships. Kirkus says Allen writes in a sharp, lively voice that is full of warmth and humor, touching on issues of professional womanhood, race, and family. The author crafts a novel that is both timely and enjoyable. As I said, this was a self-published hit, and we're thrilled to have it on our list. The author, Jane Allen, is actually the pen name of Jonique Seeley. She studied engineering at Duke and law at Harvard. She's been featured in Black Enterprise, Sheen, and book blogs, including Book Girl Magic and This Brown Girl Reads. You're going to hear a lot about this book, and for good reason. This series is really wonderful, powerful, and again, thrilled to have it on our list. Black Girls Must Die Exhausted by Jane Allen.
Okay. All Our Shimmering Skies by Trent Dalton. You'll know Trent Dalton from Boy Swallows Universe, which was critically acclaimed, one of the best-selling books in Australia, where it sold over 500,000 copies. And this is a World War II novel unlike anything I've ever read. It takes place in Australia and follows a young girl who is on a quest, think Wizard of Oz, to find a sorcerer who she believes has cursed her family, and she needs to undo all the damage that's been wrought because of this curse. So she and two unexpected companions, Greta, who is an actress, and Yukio, who is a Japanese fighter pilot who's abandoned his post, venture out on this quest in the midst of Japanese bombings, huge amounts of danger. And I think what's really special about Trent is his prose is beautiful and transportive. There's magical realism throughout this, but it doesn't make light of the atrocities that are taking place around them. So it's a really fine balance that Trent just does really beautifully. There's kindness, there's wonder and amazement, and it is just so forward moving as this young girl goes on the quest of a lifetime. I can't recommend it enough. Again, I think it's just so fresh and so unique, and Trent's prose is just unmistakable. Just a real singular experience and a really wonderful addition to the genre. So that is Our Shimmering Skies, and it's coming in July.
Okay, Sisters in Arms by Kaya Alderson. So Kaya is a historical women's fiction author with a passion for discovering hidden figures in African American women's history, and her specific areas of interest are women's military history, poppy music, women in sports. And this is such a exciting book for us because we have a lot of World War II books, but this is a really unique story. It's based on the true story of the 8,888th Postal Battalion, the 668, the only all-Black female U.S. battalion, to be deployed overseas during World War II. That's a mouthful. And so it follows two women, Grace Steele and Eliza Jones, and they're completely different backgrounds. They come from different worlds, but then they go into the Army specifically for the women's the WAAC, and they are both starting from the same level. So they kind of start on a clean slate, and they'll be among the first class of female officers the Army has ever seen. But they're also the first Black women ever allowed to serve. And so everyone is determined for them to fail. They have to navigate, bureaucratic tape, a segregated Army, and they have to do their best to serve this country they love, but they know that all eyes are on them, and they kind of have to be the best of the best to make up for it. And this is the first of what we hope will be a new surge World War II story spotlighting the Black experience. It's based entirely on real events and features some historical figures like Charity Adams. And Kaya is a Spelman alumna, and she used libraries and museums on Army bases to do a lot of her research. And the curators and librarians were so excited to have someone that's taking an interest in these really important stories that she got a behind-the-scenes look, and she got to touch uniforms so she'd know exactly how to describe them, for example. Really rich detail, and the stories are important and need to be told, and we're excited that Kaya is here to tell it. So that's the Sisters in Arms by Kaya Alderson. me again. So this is Homestretch by Graham Norton. You might know Graham Norton from BBC. I am such a big fan of him. I could watch a show all day. He's one of the UK's most beloved broadcasters. He has so many accolades. Like he's like got a podcast, everything. So of course he's an author. He adds to that. He has novels, Holding and A Keeper. They are award-winning books, and this newest one, Homestretch, was a London Sunday Times bestseller, published there last fall, and the winner of a Post-Irish Book Award. And Sunday Times calls it compelling, big-hearted, and emotionally precise page-turner. So many great quotes for this. The story, this novel, starts in 1987 in a small Irish community. It's preparing for a wedding, and the day before the ceremony, a group of young friends, including the bride and groom, are involved in a car accident. 3 survive, 3 are killed, and of course, the lives of the families are shattered. Connor survived. He was driving. But living among that is hard when you're mourning and also feeling responsible in some ways, carrying that. And so he leaves the only place he's known, this Irish community, and travels first to Liverpool and then London, and then eventually makes a home of sorts for himself in New York City. He finds this possibility of a new life. And this is exciting because this is the first of Graham's books to be in another place other than Ireland. And so Connor has to confront this past, and this review in Irish Independent says it all, I think. It says, Norton has described Homestretch as his most personal novel. On a facile level, the assumption might be that this is only because it is a gay central character and charts the progress from those depressing old times when homosexuality was considered immoral and punishable by law in Ireland, becoming the first country in the world to include same-sex marriage by popular vote. On a deeper but ultimately more satisfying level, Homestretch seems to be a love letter from Norton to his homeland and people and place that have made for him good or ill. And he doesn't gloss over the bad things that were done societally and individually. Those gratuitous acts of spite and pride never made others' lives much harder than they needed to be. I know that's a lot to read, but I just think that packs a punch, and it's so much bigger of a story, and it really is a love letter from this big personality that people know to his Irish hometown. And so that is Homestretch by Graham Norton.
Okay, The Great Mrs. Elias by Barbara Chase Rabaud. Now, everyone, please understand something. We've had technical difficulties, and unfortunately, I know I'm looking at the chat room, we are not able to bring Barbara Chase Rabaud to the presentation today. We are so sorry. But what we will do, we're so looking forward to having her, and it's a glitch. She's in France, Wi-Fi, who knows, but it's not happening. And so I'll let you know about the book. She's going to record something that we will send to everybody so that you can hear from her directly what the book is about and what she's been up to and what made her write the book, because this is a really this is a powerful book and a big deal. It's been 20 years, so we are sorry, and we will. I told you, we'll make it up to you. We will make sure that you get a video from her. But for now, let me just tell you about the great Mrs. Elias. So, Barbara Chase Rabaud, as you all know, wrote the best-selling historical novel Sally Hemings, which was controversial in its time. And was just such a powerful read, and really put her just a powerful read. What can I say? She returns now with this book, The Great Mrs. Elias, another groundbreaking work of historical fiction about one of the richest women in the early 20th century. Hannah Elias was one of the first Black millionaires. The light-skinned Hannah was born in slavery and secretly married to a white man. When they divorced, she invested her alimony in the stock market. Passing as Southern European, she used a series of white men to invest for her, ultimately living in opulence on Central Park. But when an old lover murders her current partner, Hannah's secret life becomes public, and she is hounded by both the press and mobs of white protesters who accuse her of stealing the wealth of whites. This is a page-turner filled with Gilded Age glamour, suspense, real-life characters, and an immersive period feel that captures the texture of a changing New York. This is book club catnip. The author herself is a celebrated poet, novelist, and she's a sculptor, She has been edited by Toni Morrison and late Jacqueline Onassis. In addition to her other writing, she wrote source material for Steven Spielberg that he used for his film Amistad. So this marks her return to fiction after almost 2 decades, and it was worth the wait. We will be sure to send a pre-recorded message to all of you, everybody who attended today. I'm so sorry again, and you're all so sweet. I'm reading the comments, and you're all saying we completely understand, and I love you for understanding. These things happen, and but how exciting, right? That we have her on our list, and that she's back with this really wonderful story to tell. Yeah, pretty powerful. So there we go. The power of words, learning about people that may have gone past our radar. So that's The Great Mrs. Elias, Barbara Chase Rabode. Thank you. Me again, The Women's March by Jennifer Chiavarini. This is in the spirit of her best-selling book, Resistance Women. This is another inspiring historical novel about women fighting for change. Strangely, this is a story from history that feels like it speaks to our current political and cultural moment. That is hopefully changing. The 19th century women's suffrage movement in the United States resulted in voting rights for women in all but 9 states when incoming President Woodrow Wilson declared himself against a national amendment for women's voting rights. So, inspired by these events, this is the story of the first Women's March in 1913. This is the story of the women's suffrage movement inspired by 3 courageous women who bravely risked their lives and liberty in the fight to win the vote by organizing a march in Washington to take place the day before Wilson's inauguration. Just very briefly, but I kind of want to tell you about these women. So there's 25-year-old Alice Paul. She comes back to her native New Jersey after she's been on the front lines of the suffrage movement in Great Britain. She's weakened from imprisonment and a hunger strike. Nevertheless, she persists. Joining the march is 39-year-old New Yorker Maud Malone, a librarian and advocate for women's and workers' rights. The daughter of Irish immigrants, she has acquired a reputation and a criminal record for interrupting politicians' speeches with pointed questions they'd rather ignore. She is now my hero. And then civil rights activist and journalist Ida B. Wells Barnett resolves that women of color must also be included in the march and the proposed amendment. She's born into slavery in Mississippi, and she worries that white suffragists may exclude Black women if it serves their own interests. So she takes on the white suffragist establishment to make sure that Black women are included in the movement. So the Glorious March commences on March 3rd, 1913. Of course, police, and crowds of belligerent men try to block the parade route. You'll read all about it when you read this book. Okay, go to Edelweiss. Go to Behind the Book essay that Jennifer Chiavarini has written. It is not to be missed. Why she wrote this book, it's like a mini novella. And also, she has a cast of characters, and so you learn about these women and others. And I felt like I love that she included this. I love that that's on Edelweiss, because I feel like these women need to be remembered, or you have to know about them if you don't. And I didn't know about some of them. And so I think it's just a great, a beautiful thing that it's there now. They deserve to be memorialized. And she's done that with this cast of characters in this Behind the Book essay. I just am so proud of this book, The Women's March by Jennifer Chiavarini. Oh my God. What can I say? Okay, I'll stop. I'm done. Who's next? Can't hear you.
I think it's you, Virginia.
It is. The Sisters of Auschwitz. This is this unforgettable story of these 2 sisters who joined the Dutch resistance, Yanni and Lien Brilslinger, and they saved dozens of lives. They are in this safe house where they are keeping all of these. Now I've lost my notes and I've just presented this, but let's go back to it because I for whatever reason I want to do this book justice. So let's go to the next one and I'll come back.
Okay.
Next slide.
Okay, great. So we have After Parties by Anthony Vayasnas. So who was an incredibly talented up-and-coming literary voice who tragically passed away unexpectedly at the end of last year. Such a loss. This is such an incredible, beautiful book and tribute to his legacy. It's a series of short stories that explores the intricacies of both Cambodian American life and the life of being both, a queer immigrant minority. And it does it with humor, with a very keen eye. These stories just are unforgettable. They just, I think about them all the time, and they run the gamut. I mean, you have a single mother and her two teenage daughters who are running a 24-hour donut shop, who become enamored of this mysterious man who comes in late every night and orders one donut, doesn't eat it, and then leaves. You have a former badminton star who's now an older high school coach who strikes up a rivalry with an up-and-coming teenage player. And just these huge stories that, again, speak so loudly and beautifully, but also just with all these subtle details about life as a Cambodian American, as a queer man or woman. Just they're unforgettable. I love this quote by George Saunders: "Powered by So's skill, with the telling detail, are like beams of wry, affectionate light falling from different directions on a complicated, struggling, beloved American community." And I think that's so right. This is just a moving, unforgettable collection of short stories that I can't recommend highly enough. I think it's just going to be, a cherished classic for years and years to come. And I love the jacket as well. So that's After Parties by Anthony Deasna So.
Thank you, Chris. And I'm so sorry. That was my book to present. And so if we can go back to Sisters of Auschwitz, I just presented this yesterday on my Library Journal webinar, but without notes in front of me, you don't want to just dial this one in. I don't want to dial any of them in. But okay, so Sisters of Auschwitz. This is the true story of these two Jewish sisters' resistance by Roxanne van Ipperen. And it is the story of Yanni and Leen Brilslipper. And 8 months after Germany's invasion of Poland, the Nazis roll into the Netherlands and expand their reign of brutality to the Dutch. And by the winter of 43, resistance is growing. And among those fighting the occupiers are these two Jewish sisters from Amsterdam. They are risking arrest and death, and they help save others, sheltering them in this safe house in the woods that they call the High Nest. The secret refuge becomes one of the most important Jewish safe houses in the country, serving as a hiding place and an underground center for resistance partisans as well as artists condemned by Hitler. When the house and its occupants are eventually betrayed, the most terrifying time of the sisters' lives begins. The troops come in and the family is rushed onto the last train to Auschwitz along with Anne Frank. The journey brings the sisters close to Anne and her older sister, and the days ahead will test the sisters beyond imagination. They're stripped of everything but their courage and resilience. This is based on meticulous research that the author did, unprecedented access to the Brilslippers' personal archives of memoirs and photos. It's a long overdue story. An interesting thing is that the author lives in the High Nest. It was through investigating the history of her home that she became enthralled with the history of the inspiring story of its occupants. And so she had, as I say, access to their unpublished memoir and historic interviews with Yanni and Leen and others, and personal conversations with the sisters' children. This book was originally published in the Netherlands as The High Nest, won a lot of awards, and as I say, the research is amazing, and the book contains tons of photographs from the family archive. So that is a 200,000 announced print. This is a big book for us, and so I hope you all take note. If you have questions, let us know. Happy to get galleys to you as soon as we possibly can. Thank you.
Okay, How to Kidnap the Rich by Rahul Raina, excuse me. And this is a really exciting debut that we're thrilled to be publishing. Rahul is an impressive individual, I have to say. He's 27. He has a startup in England, and then he spends some of his time working for charities, teaching street children to read in India. And now he has his debut novel, which is incredible. This is a kind of caper thriller, a comedy of errors. It follows Ramesh, who is a young, brilliant man living in Delhi, and he makes his money by taking tests for the Sons of India's elite. But he does too well at his job for one individual, Rudy, who by taking this test for Rudy, he scores so high that Rudy, who people think is now brilliant, is set to appear on a game show as part of this prize. Little does Ramesh know that he inadvertently now has caused a situation where Rudy will be kidnapped. And Ramesh takes it upon himself to fix this and finds himself the kidnapper instead. So this is, again, a caper as Rudy and Ramesh team up. They're running through India, committing crimes, large and small. And while you get this really fast-paced look at India, all the complexities and beauty of the place, but you also have these two really unforgettable characters with a very unlikely relationship. This is getting tons of great press. The Cosmopolitan UK says, fans of My Sister the Serial Killer, Parasite, and Crazy Rich Asians will be enthralled by this riotous tale from the very first line. It's just a page turner, kind of a finish in one sitting type of read. And also for fans of Trent Dalton, which I think is important to note. So definitely keep your eyes peeled for this fun, unforgettable novel, How to Kidnap the Rich, which is coming in June.
Okay, the reading list by Sarah Nisha Adams. So this is a really heartwarming story about a widower named Mukesh who lives a quiet life in the London borough of Ealing. He is mourning the loss of his wife. He doesn't really know what to do with himself. He goes shopping. He goes to temple. He worries about his granddaughter, Priya, who hides in her room reading while he spends evenings watching nature documentaries. Then we meet Alicia, who's a bright but anxious teenager who's got her own story. There's some family stuff going on in her life as well, which you find out about. She works at the local library, and she is going through a copy of To Kill a Mockingbird, and at the back of it finds a crumpled up piece of paper, and on the paper is a list of novels that she's never heard of. Books like Rebecca, Time Traveler's Wife, The Kite Runner, Life of Pi, Pride and Prejudice, Little Women, Suitable Boy. She's bored with her job, and so now she's got this great list of books, and she's decided she's going to read every single one on this list, one after the other. And each story gives up its magic, and it transports her from some painful realities that she's facing at home. Meanwhile, back to Mukesh, he's so desperate to bond with his granddaughter and to provide some comfort to her that he had with his wife while she was alive. So he decides to go to the Harrow Road Library to find some books to read and try and connect. And when he gets there, he meets Alicia, and she passes along this reading list, hoping it'll be a lifeline for him as well. And sure enough, slowly those shared books create a connection between these two lonely souls, and fiction helps find them escape their grief and everyday troubles and find joy again. This is a great diversity own voices read. As I say, it's set in the multicultural London neighborhood of Ealing. It's a celebration of the British Indian community by an author who was raised there. She, the author, is a former book editor at Harville Secker in London, so she really gets the ins and outs of a good story. She was a speaker at the American Library Association, which was hosted, a program that was hosted, but Forget Your Troubles, Come On, Get Happy, with HarperCollins, Workman, and Macmillan. So if you can check that out, you should, because she was wonderful. This is a great story about the power of books and a love letter to our best-known novels. It's a must for all book lovers. That's the reading list by Sarah Nisha Adams. And London's #1 dog walking agency by Kate McDougall. This is a debut memoir, and I love this woman's life. In 2006, Kate McDougall was working for a safe but dull job at Sotheby's in London. And after a clumsy accident nearly destroyed a precious piece of art, she quit Sotheby's and she set up her own dog walking company. She knew little about dogs and nothing about business. And no one thought there being a professional dog walker was a good use of her university degree. Nevertheless, she persisted. That's a theme I'm seeing in my books. She embarks upon this entirely new and much improvised career, walking some of the city's many pampered pooches and branding her company London's #1 dog walking agency. It's delightful. It's witty. There's lots of canine affection, and she reveals her unique and unconventional coming-of-age story is told through the dogs and the London homes and neighborhoods they inhabit. One walk at a time, she journeys from a haphazard 20-something to a happily and surprisingly settled adult with love, relationships, drama, and home ownership along the way. But as Kate says, it's all down to the dogs and what they taught her about London and life. This is a lovely coming-of-age story and a charming love letter to London and its well-heeled residents, and of course, its canines. That is London's #1 dog walking agency by Kate McDougal. So many people wanted this copy of this book when we talked about it at ALA.
Okay, A Low Country Bride by Prislesa Williams. So this is an Avon debut set in the beautiful South Carolina Low Country. This was found during Avon Open Call in 2019, and the purpose of which was to find a new extraordinary voice from marginalized communities. And so this was one of the winners. And in this story, we have Maya Jackson, who wants to be the head designer for her boss at Laura Whitcomb Inc., a renowned New York City bridal gown brand. And she's working really hard. Her life has kind of she's prioritized her career over her personal life. And then her father fractures his hip, and she has to return back to South Carolina in Charleston to take care of him. But while she's there, she has to take unpaid vacation during this trip and has to find a way to finance this stay because she's not getting paid for it. And so she finds this opportunity at the local bridal gown boutique called Always a Bride. She never expects that the owner, Derek Sullivan, who's a military veteran and a widowed father, he took over for his mom after she passed. He never expects sparks to fly there, but he is dealing with a lot. He's trying to save this store from bankruptcy and preserve the legacy of his family. And he didn't expect this woman to walk into his life either, but he also wants to reconnect with his estranged 12-year-old daughter. So there's a lot of personal relationships in this, and you explore all of those throughout the story. But the book is really unique in many ways. It has an appeal for a Christian audience. The main character is part of several different communities. She's Afro-Filipino, much like the author, so it's an own voices story. She has sickle cell anemia, which I really appreciate hearing about how she lives her life with this illness. And overall, it's just a really, really sweet read and from a new emerging voice. So we're very, very excited. Kathleen Ibarbo, who wrote The Black Midnight, said that she couldn't stop reading about this determined, creative, plucky woman who quickly became real to me. So that is A Low Country Bride by Prislesa Williams.
Okay, great. And before I start with The Wolf and the Woodsman, I just want to call out, if anyone's having technical issues, I did see a few comments. Do try refreshing your browser. Try to use Google Chrome if you can. And then again, turn down the resolution with the gear icon in the video, and you can turn that down. That should prevent any buffering or video issues. So let me know if that doesn't work. We'll do what we can. But then I'll now return to the book, The Wolf and the Woodsman by Ava Reed. This is a huge fantasy debut for us that is very much in the vein of S.A. Chakraborty, who I know you all, so many of you are huge supporters of. This is influenced by Hungarian history and Jewish mythology and is a standalone with this fully fleshed out world where you have these pagan villages where magic is just an understood and expected part of life. But you have one young woman who doesn't have any power, and so she's essentially an outcast from her community. But in this world, there have to be sacrifices, blood sacrifices, to appease the forces at play in this world. And this young woman is chosen. But when she is on her way with a group of royal guard to be sacrificed, the entire team is ambushed, and everyone but a one-eyed captain and this young woman are killed. And so this is a journey as they are trying to survive. And also you have a little bit of a Game of Thrones power play at hand, because the king's brother is... the woodsman, this one-eyed man, his brother has plans to kind of take over the throne, and this young woman is central to this power play. So again, this is for fans of Spinning Silver and The Bear and the Nightingale, as well as S.A. Chakraborty's beloved trilogy, but also with a very fresh, own voices Jewish bent to it that really makes it a compelling new voice and new form in the genre. And I see Sarah Ricks has had me a Hungarian history and Jewish mythology. Yeah, this is going to be for you, and this is going to be the start to a very promising fantasy career for Ava Reed. We have a new book signed for her for summer 2022 as well. So much more to come with The Wolf and the Woodsman by Ava Reed.
Okay, The Queer Principles of Kit Webb by Kat Sebastian. We love Kat Sebastian. We're so excited that she's coming to trade paperback. So Kat Sebastian writes queer historical romance, and this is her first in print. She started off on the Avon Impulse, which was ebook, and had some mass market that were printed subsequently. But this is her first debut in trade paperback, and it's her first set in the Georgian period. And in this story, Kit Webb was a highwayman who thieved his way into an injury, and he lost his partner. So he's mourning his partner, mourning the use of being able to go and be able to do all these things. And now he runs a coffee house with a lending library, asterisk library. And there may be a fence involved that is working in his coffee house, but overall, it's a reformed life. And then walks Percy, Lord Holland, and he is seeking Kit's help because he wants to rob his own father to get a book that once belonged to his mother. And Kit refuses to participate in the robbery, but he agrees to teach Percy how to do it. So he's hurt, he can't do it, but he says, fine, I'll help you do this. And he is a very buttoned up Percy comes from a whole different world. He, makeup and hair, and he is going to have to learn how to commit this crime. And as they are getting ready for it, they think that maybe committing this crime may not be the only reason they want to keep seeing each other to do this. There's a heist, there's fencing duels, it has everything. And you can go check out a video from Kat herself. She was featured in our representing program during ALA Midwinter in our booth, and I put the link for you in the notes because it is so great to hear from her herself all about this book, and it's a really fun read. So that is The Queer Principles of Kit Webb. Okay, Miss Butterworth and the Mad Baron by Julia Quinn, illustrated by Violet Charles. So everyone's so excited about Bridgerton and the show, and we need more in the world of Julia Quinn. We want to know more. And so this is the very first graphic novel from Julia Quinn, and her sister, Violet Charles, is going to illustrate it. So it's a fun mashup between her worlds and this woman Miss Butterworth, who comes in and out of some of her books, and her sister. So it's a fun family. They thought this up, and they thought it'd be a perfect way to bring it to the readers. So this is based on story snippets peppered throughout the number of her books. So originally mentioned It's in His Kiss, one of the Bridgerton novels, inspired the Netflix series. Well, Hyacinth in that book was reading an excerpt of Miss Butterworth to Lady Danbury. And so that's where it started. And then Miss Butterworth and the Mad Baron, this is the complete final story told in its entirety for the first time. It comes in and out of books. It's like a running theme, but this is the entire story. And it's a delightfully realized collaboration between these sisters, and about a woman who has smallpox, Miss Priscilla Butterworth, and she uses her wits to survive in a series of trials that come throughout her life. And she's separated from her beloved mother and grandmother, and the young girl is sent to live with her callous aunt, who forces her to work for keep. And eventually she makes her escape, a daring journey into the unknown, and she finds her Mad Baron and a lifetime of love. So we're very, very excited about this. And we have a few spreads if you want to go to the next slide. And you can find these on Edelweiss, but gives you an idea of what it will look like. So
Lady, can you read some of that?
Yes. If I can kind of see it. So it was a dark and windy night, and Miss Priscilla Butterworth was certain that at any moment the rain would begin pouring down from the heavens in sheets and streams, dousing all that lay within her purview. She was, of course, shielded with the weather in her tiny chamber. but the window casings rattled in such noise that there would be no way she would find slumber this evening. Huddled on her thin, is that I cannot, I only barely see it, so
That's okay. That's fine. I just wanted people to get a sense of it. That's all.
Yeah, it's fine. There's another one.
Yeah.
The center left tile on the right-hand page makes me laugh. Coffins make great tables too.
What a talented family.
Yeah, very. Okay.
All right.
So that's Butterworth and Mad Baron.
Yay, Julia Quinn. Oh my goodness. And a lovely person too, who's so into libraries and always looking to talk to librarians and make appearances virtual, though it may be right now. So we can talk about all that later. But right now is the commercial portion of our presentation, which is where we're going to just briefly talk. Oh, I forgot. We have to put our cameras on. I was thinking it would be really funny if when we came back on, we had funny hats on, but we don't. Okay, so social stuff and just things you should know about. We wanted to dive into those books, and I'm so glad we did. It feels good. It's got a nice vibe going on right now, you guys. We're going to keep it going. So social media. Look, you all know how to reach us. Library Love Fest is the way to go. It's one-stop shopping for, you know, anything that we're doing. Posts, author posts, how to get whitelisted, the whole shebang. So, or yes, it would have been funny if we had cat faces on. That would be hilarious. Next time. Oh my God, what a loss. Or if we had Bernie Sanders, you know. Okay, next slide. Okay, as I said, one-stop shopping. You want to get whitelisted for galleys? Let us know. We have a door-to-door series. We'll tell you about that in a second. A wonderful podcast. Whenever a book is in hardcover, library hardcover edition, we'll let you know that. And if you want to sign up for our newsletters, and we're always, Chris is sending out these amazing newsletters, chock full of stuff that you need to know, not stuff that you just were sending it out to send it out. So just go to Library Love Fest, and it's all right there. And we're there too. Okay, next.
Someone did have a question about e-galleys. Can I just tell them?
Sure,
quickly?
yeah.
So on our website, you can see this, but I know a few of you asked. So you can send us an email, librarylovefest@harpercollins.com, and tell us what library you work at, and tell us what your Edelweiss and or NetGalley email is. We'll get you signed up, and then you don't have to request. But just that's how you do it. So a quick rundown.
Should we look at other questions here before? I don't want to like blow through it and then nobody gets their stuff answered. I mean, is there any way to get some of these books in print arcs? Write to us. If we have them, we'll send them to you. That's the best that we can do, you know? So if you don't ask, you don't get.
Butterworth, recommended age, it is an adult. It is a romance. So.
And just to note, this will be available for replay immediately following the completion of the live broadcast. Someone did ask that. We'll also post it on YouTube, so multiple places to get your Library Love Fest fix.
Yay. You love the Love Fest on our Rasmussen Starter. We love you guys. Okay. Thank you for your kind comments and everything. This is the conversation. So right now, it's just anything you need. Okay, so let's go on to 3 books that we love. And we're just going to give you a snippet of each because we don't want you to forget these. So Mary Jane, this is a novel by Jessica Anya Blau, who you have probably read before. This book is our lead read book. That's our sales initiative, or we wade through tons of manuscripts and we pick one that we think has a little something extra, and then it's voted on, and this is the one that bubbled to the top. This is on sale May 11th. It's a very sweet coming of age story set in 1970s in Baltimore, and it's about a 14-year-old kid named Mary Jane who lives in this very buttoned up and conservative house. And she gets a job as a nanny watching this 5-year-old kid at this doctor's house. And this teenager's eyes are opened up to a world that she had never imagined. They are the exact opposite of her home life. They're just, it's wild. It's wild. It's loose. It's open. It's wonderful in a way. And it's also sort of like, whoa, what is happening? And it's got this greatly infused with wonderful music. And I could go on and on, but trust me when I tell you, it is delightful. That's Mary Jane, Jessica Anya Blau.
Yes, and one other book that we love so much is The 100 Years of Lenny and Margot by Marianne Cronin. And this is an unlikely friendship between 83-year-old Margot and 17-year-old 8-year-old Margot and 17-year-old Lenny, who are both in the terminal ward at a hospital in Glasgow, and so tenderhearted, characters you won't forget. I'm jealous of anyone who gets to read this book for the first time. So sweet. And it comes out in June.
All right, and yeah, my book is The Night Always Comes, Willie Blotton's 6th novel, following Don't Skip Out on Me, which so many of you came out for and supported. This novel is really fast-paced, which is a new take, I think, for Willie. It follows Lynette, who is 30-something, and it takes place over the course of 2 days and 2 nights as she is trying to collect enough money to put a down payment on her house in a gentrifying Portland, Oregon. So a lot of different kind of seedy characters, people who lived hard lives, and Lynette is just trying to make it work and just get a stake in this life, and just beautiful writing, empathetic characters. All three of us love Willie Blotton. He's a musician as well. I'm going to post a link to a compilation of pretty much everything that we've done with Willie Blotton, interviews. We did a door-to-door with him. He performs a song because he is a musician. There's going to be a book soundtrack for this book, as there was for Don't Skip Out on Me and his previous novels. There's not enough we can say about Willie. Just such a kind, clear-eyed author, unforgettable. No one like him.
Which the music we played at the beginning, I don't know that we said that. That was from Don't Skip Out on Me. So
fabulous.
Yeah, and here's an e-card I made just there's 4-star reviews for this book. He always gets all the stars, but it's nice to see them come in nonetheless. Library Journal, Booklist, Publishers Weekly, and Kirkus. Just such a fantastic book. And you'll see these reviews and more. I just posted a link to our blog with everything you need to know about Willie, aside from the books. You got to read those yourself to really know, and I'm sure you will. If you need copies or anything, let us know. We'll take care of you.
I'm just going to reiterate what Chris said, and that we all love this author so much. And Chris did this fabulous job. I mean, this Chris, who did this illustration of Willie?
I'll have to go to his website.
That's from his people, but Chris did all this other. This is a very unconventional and very forward-thinking, I think, promotional piece created by Chris using the art that existed. But we've gotten great feedback from this because it's so content rich. And honestly, every author that but many authors that we've spoken to, even just recently, have said, "Oh, I really want to read Willie Blotton." So I don't know. I mean, we have been fans of his for a long, long time, and I hope you will be too. We hope you will be too. Anyway, Chris, I don't want to take away from anything, but I want to give you a shout out because I just think that's amazing.
Yeah, and they're just very rewarding books. I briefly mentioned he generally focuses on people who are marginalized, compromised, who are in tough situations, who often aren't, the central figures in stories. And I think it's so important that he does give them voice and, shed light on them. And he himself is just an incredible person, very kind.
And some talented. Nice comments here from some folks. And Wendy Bartlett's joined us from Cuyahoga, hoping to get Willie to come to the library, and that's fabulous. Yeah, the e-card's wonderful. I mean, it's just great. We can go on, but we've got to keep moving. But please, let's pause for a second. Know this. These are books that the three of us are really crazy about. So we hope that if you haven't read them, we hope that you do.
Yes.
Yes, Lisa Casper says, "Nice job, Chris. Caught my eye, and it was so different." That's so true. It is so different. It makes you look, and then I hope it makes you click all over the place. Don't click crazy. All right, let's keep going.
Okay.
But good going, you guys. This is awesome. All right, next. Oh, okay, that's me. So, door to door, we interviewed these 2 authors. It was a really cool hour. We love our door to doors. We love our Facebook Lives. They always just come out. I don't know. We walk away feeling just energized and informed and moved by our authors and their stories. This was a really interesting, recently held Facebook Live with these 2 women. This was a nonfiction hour. And we had Jennifer Keeshan Armstrong, who wrote When Women Invented Television. And she talks all about these 4 women who were trailblazing, when radio was all the rage and TV was like, who's going to spend money to buy one of those big old things? And they were going crazy. And they were providing all this content on radio and then flipping over to television. Betty White. It was a really, really interesting conversation. Irma Phillips, who talked about, her Gertrude Berg. I could go on and on. I can't. Oh my God, it was so amazing about the introduction of. I keep going. Soap operas. It was. Please watch it. And then Sensational: The Hidden Story of America's Girl Stunt Reporters. This is a social history that brings to light girl stunt reporters of the Gilded Age who went undercover to expose corruption and abuse in America and redefine what it meant to be a woman and a journalist. So these were just women pioneers doing this great stuff. And I don't say ahead of their time. I say that time was lagging behind them. They were amazing people, and you need to know about them. So please go to Door to Door. Everything is on our YouTube channel. So if you are not a Facebook person, fear not. Go to YouTube, Library LFS channel. That is that. And Door to Door, every Tuesday at 2 o'clock on Library Love Fest Facebook Live. We are talking with authors. Sometimes the three of us are just talking, but we invite you to join us. And again, I say, if you are not a Facebook person, later that day, minutes later, Chris has got that up on YouTube, on the YouTube channel, Library Love Fest YouTube channel. So next slide is just, I think, a look at some of the authors that we've had there. We've had over 70 authors and over 400,000 views. It's crazy and fabulous, and we just had such a wonderful time. It's a privilege to talk to these folks and to hear their stories and to have them. We learn as you learn, and it's just wonderful. It just adds a whole new dimension having the luxury of some time to sit and talk to them and to listen to them. So please, if you haven't checked it out, please do, because it's pretty cool. Okay, next.
Next Door to Door. And I see some people saying they had fun and they're leaving. I hope that we have way more books for you. So please don't. We have another hour, so hope you are ready for some books.
And if you can't, how are they going to find this?
If you can't, it's fine. We have that title list for you at the bottom, and then we have the recorded video that will be up on Facebook later today as well as YouTube. So hope to stay. If you can't, don't worry, we got you covered. But just so you know. Door to Door. So next week on the 16th, we have Jocelyn Jackson, who just wrote Mother May I. That's her new domestic suspense. Keep you turning those pages. It's so good. And Bolu Babalola, author of Love and Color, with a story collection centers on Black love around the world. And I hope that you come for this because it is going to be a fun conversation. And we actually, Jocelyn had read Love and Color, and it was a really fun when we had her for the podcast, which I'll talk about in a minute. I'm really looking forward to see what these authors have to say, and they're really, really beautiful books. So that is the next Door to Door. You can find that on our Facebook page. And then next, just a reminder, we have some e-cards, one for Mother May I, that we have all the librarian love. We love these quotes that are on these cards. And that's for Mother May I, coming in April. And then next we have Love and Color. And that's coming in April. Katie Stover. And then before we had Jennifer Winbury. We love all of our librarian quotes. Thank you for sending that. Okay, Instagram takeovers. So I want to talk about this for a second. We have had authors since March taking over every Friday on our Instagram page, Harper Library. And the idea for this was to take you out of your home, even if virtually, for a little bit and learn more about the authors and their books. We've had Neil Gaiman. We've had Nancy Pearl, who did an amazing reader's advisory. She just went to our shelves and showed it all, and I linked to that in the notes. And this week on Friday, we have Laura Jane Williams. It's a month of love. We have a lot of romances. So I just wanted to remind you about this. You can follow us at Harper Library, but go on Fridays. We try to remind on all of our other social, but they take a lot of time to kind of curate their writing space and let you in on this. And so I hope you guys take time to go look at these, and you can see the past ones. You can go back and look at those. And they do take a lot of time to do these. And I think that they're such rich content and show us so much about the author and their process that I find really interesting. So I hope that you go back, and you don't have to go at a certain time, which I'm going to use you as a focus group. I want to ask a question. So in the notes, let me know, just say, Instagram takeover. This is my thought. So some authors take over all Friday, 9 to 5, and then some, are in the UK, so their times kind of differ, but you can always go back and watch it. Do you prefer all day, or do you prefer like a couple of hours that the authors post and you go interact with them? Let me know, because they're doing such great things, and I don't want anyone to miss it because they don't have time. They're back at the library. So if you would, be my focus group and let me know. Thank you. So that's author Instagram takeovers. And the next, I think, is the podcast. Yes. Jocelyn Jackson was on our podcast with her editor, and it was amazing. It was one of my favorite conversations. And I say that like every month. I'm like, this is my new favorite, because they're so good and such rich content that you can be at the readers. You could do reader's advisor. You can be sitting at the desk and somebody can walk in and say, what's this book about? And you will know, well, did you know that the author and editor have known each other for 6.5 books? Like, it's such a fun conversation, and I want you to deep dive into these. Please let us know if you're scared of podcasts and don't know what they are. That's okay. There's no judgment, and we want to help you. So let me know. I will personally play it for you. I love these podcasts, and we have a little clip from that one, so I'm going to play it now.
Books aren't fungible. The good thing, I think, for libraries and for book publishers is about process being that way. Is like I always tell people who want to write, do not check out a book on how to write a novel. You need to check out or buy 50 million books on how to write a novel. And you need to read them all. And then you need to cherry pick and try different stuff until you find the way you write a novel. Nobody can tell you how to write a novel. They can tell you how they write a novel. And if you're interested in learning a process, it's really about picking and choosing all these little pieces and what works for you. So you need lots of books on how to write a novel to learn how to write a novel from books.
I completely 100% agree with that. And I think that it also is, the more you read, the more you kind of can develop your own style. And so
that was her editor at the end. And these are really thoughtful conversations, and they know each other so well. They've worked on like 6 books, I think is what they said, together. So that's the kind of content you'll hear. And the authors put a lot of work and the editors put a lot of work. We put a lot of work in this podcast, and we want it to find its audience. So thank you for answering the question about a couple of hours. And I've talked enough. I'm sorry I took over, but we have such great content, and we want people to know about it. And I love putting the podcast out. So I want to know what works for you. Write me an email. Let me know. I would love to hear from you.
Okay, so yes, virtual author visits. I just want to reiterate to everyone, we're here to help with this. I think virtual author visits are going to be with us for the foreseeable future. And even when things are normal, I think they can still be a valuable asset to your programming. So we're here to help. You can go to our blog and click that virtual author events icon for some guides to how to approach that. And then just email us, libraryleffest@harpercollins.com, and we can help, book some things, just get it started. So that's all that info there. We're here to help every step of the way. So let us know. And then audiobook e-galleries. The responses have been so wonderful to this. Now we have audiobook e-galleries on both Edelweiss and NetGalley. This is just a sample of some of the titles that are currently up. I know the Willie Lawton just went up as an audiobook e-gallery as well. That's one of the slides. Yep, here you go, as well as The Betrayals by Bridget Collins. A lot of Bridget Collins fans in the library community. So do check those out. It's a pretty simple process. Let us know if you need to be auto-approved on either or both Edelweiss and or NetGalley, and we can make that happen. So do check that out. And now we're back to the books.
And now we're back to the books. So we know that was a lot, but we want to make sure that you guys know all about that. Again, that Jocelyn Jackson podcast has such great energy, such great content, and yeah, lots of work goes into that, and we want to make sure you know about it. And if you have suggestions for us about how to spread that word and amplify our podcast, let us know. We are open to suggestions. Okay, here we go. It is 2:08, and we have a bunch more books to get through. I do believe we are going to end right on time at 3 o'clock. But here we go. We'll close off our cameras and away we go. Lainey, see you later. Okay. The Stranger in the Mirror by Liv Constantine. Love Liv Constantine. This is the best-selling team behind The Last Mrs. Parrish and The Wife Stalker. And now we're back. They're back with another very twisty, psychologically unsettling novel about a woman with no recollection of her past. Addison is preparing to marry a wonderful man, but she's consumed with doubt, not because of him, but because 2 years ago she was found by the side of the road with no memory. She can't shake the feeling that she might have done something bad. Then in a home in an affluent Boston suburb, Julian tries to figure out what happened to the loving wife who disappeared 2 years ago. She would never have left him and their 7-year-old daughter willingly, would she? As these two lives intersect, The Stranger in the Mirror hooks readers with riveting drama, told with Liv Constantine's hallmark blend of glamour, intense psychological thrills, and jaw-dropping twists. You know that they are the pen name of sisters Lynn Constantine and Valerie Constantine. We've had them on our show. They are just absolutely wonderful. Love their books. I have this great quote from Mary Cobb, author of The Hunting Wives. She says, "I devoured this twisty, chilling, and hypnotic thriller in just 2 feverish sittings, desperate to guess what was going to happen next, but failing." Love that. Told from shifting perspectives, The Stranger in the Mirror is not only a propulsive psychological suspense with heart-pounding twists, it's also a richly drawn, riveting story about a woman with amnesia, frantic to recover her identity in a house of mirrors world where nothing is what it seems. Mary Cobb, author of The Hunting Wives. I love that House of Mirrors world. Oh my God. Anyway, that's The Stranger in the Mirror by Liv Constantine. They can do no wrong. Love their books. Next.
Next is When the Reckoning Comes by LaTanya McQueen, coming out in August. This is a first novel from a really exquisite voice. It's a story that surrounds the topic of plantations in the present and how they are idealized with weddings and events and what that white gaze does for this. It centers on Mira, who's a girl who left her segregated hometown in the South a decade past. But when she was a young girl growing up, she had 2 best friends, Celine, who was mocked by their town as the only white girl with black friends, and Jesse, the boy she secretly loved. And when Mira and Jesse one day in the past leave Celine to go to this woodsman plantation, it's very, it's an old plantation. It's kind of, rotting and falling apart, and it's rumored to be haunted by the spirits of slaves from the past. And they quickly have to flee because something very upsetting happens, and Jesse ends up that day being arrested for murder. So after that, the friends all kind of break up, and this decade past, Mira is now in the present, and she is coming back to her hometown to attend Celine's wedding, and it's at the plantation, which has now been newly transformed into a lush vacation resort. And so Mira hopes to reconnect with Jesse mainly during this stay. She's kind of hesitant to go back to this town. She's really put past her, but she goes back and she wants to reconnect with Jesse because she hasn't talked about these events that happened on that day long ago. And the plantation really has erased all of the oppressive history. And now there are rumors that the slaves that were tortured mercilessly and the ghosts that roam the land are seeking vengeance on the descendants, most of which are attending this wedding. And ghosts from the past, both metaphorical and literal, might come back to haunt them. But it's now the wait staff is all black, and there are slave quarter houses that you can go and live in, and people say, "Oh, this wasn't too bad." All of the oppressive history has been wiped clean, and this plantation is now something different. And so Mira really has to come to terms with that, and as well as you as the reader. And then, but also this is a horror, and it's perfect for horror fans. It was one of my favorite reads of this season. As a Southerner, I really enjoyed the discussion that it brings, and it was chilling. I had to put it down for a second at the end because it's sadly, it's based on true things, but it was, it is a horror. And then I had to pick it right back up again because I needed to know more. Really thought-provoking and a beautiful story. Very excited about this one. So When the Reckoning Comes, LaTanya McQueen.
Okay, Appleseed by Matt Bell. Oh, this is a huge, both in scope, in length, and in ambition. This is a novel for fans of Neil Stephenson and Jeff Vandermeer. This is a breakout book for Matt Bell. This is his third novel. It's his first with us, and we're really excited to get it to readers. This book takes place over the span of a millennia and deals with a lot of the issues that we're facing today: climate change, manifest destiny, and more. And it starts in 18th century Ohio, and two brothers who are kind of Johnny Appleseed types are looking to, forge into the wooded frontier and make it their own. And then you jump forward 50 years, and now it's the 21st century, and climate change has essentially, you don't fast forward 50 years, it's 50 years from now, and climate change has completely ravaged the earth as we know it. And a founding member of this genetic engineering and food science firm, who are really at the heart of this issue, the founder decides he needs to take matters into his own hand. And then you jump forward again 1,000 years, and you have this lone sentient being who is now seemingly the only person alive in a ice-covered world. And he is looking for remnants of the distant past, and he's just this lonely, again, sole inhabitant of this space. But he seems to get a beacon that there might be a society still surviving. Again, it's epic in scope. It's unlike anything I've ever read. And I do think it will be a breakout book from a very talented author that NPR calls as self-assured as he is audacious. I think audacious is a good word for this book. Enjoyably audacious. So this is coming in July. It's Appleseed by Matt Bell.
The Metal Heart by Caroline Lee. This is by the author of The Glass Woman. This is a story of an ill-fated romance between a Scottish woman and an Italian prisoner of war set on the Orkney Islands in World War II. I don't even really know where to begin with this. There's so much. I went so down the rabbit hole of this book because it is based on, The Metal Heart is inspired by the Italian chapel that exists in Lamholm, Orkney, Scotland, which was built by Italian prisoners during World War II. And the Metal Heart is also a real object created by an Italian metal worker as a symbol of his love for an Orcadian woman. Okay, so what is the book about? Novel. In the wake of the Allies' victory in North Africa, 500 Italian soldiers have been sent to this remote island off the Scottish coast to wait out the war in a newly constructed prison camp. Their arrival divides the island's community. The nerves are frayed from 3 years of war and a constant threat of invasion. So many of the locals fear these enemy prisoners. They don't want them there. But where their neighbors see bloodthirsty enemies, these orphan sisters, Dorothy and Constance, see sick and wounded men unused to the freezing cold of an Orkney winter, and they volunteer to take care of them. And while doing so, Dorothy finds herself immediately drawn to Cesare, a young man broken by the horrors of the battle. To remind themselves of the homeland they yearn for, the prisoners, among them bricklayers, carpenters, metalworkers, and artists, begin to build a chapel, turning debris and rubble into an exquisite monument to hope. The creation of something pure and holy in the middle of war captivates the islanders and temporarily blurs the lines between ally and enemy. I don't want to go on about this. You get the backdrop of this. You get the tension that everyone is experiencing. The islanders are experiencing. The outsiders are threatening. And these two sisters are opening their hearts to these people. It's a haunting novel with the emotional complexity of the boat runner and all the light we cannot see. It's a powerful atmospheric story of love, jealousy, conscience that illuminates the beauty of the human spirit. It's carefully researched. It's about war and art and memory. If you have a second, go down the rabbit hole of the Italian chapel in Orkney and be prepared to have your hair blown back. I'd never seen this. It's absolutely beautiful. And there's also an author's note on Edelweiss where the author says that she wrote The Metal Heart because she wanted to write a love story set in a prisoner of war camp. Her aunt, her great aunt, was in a camp in China during World War II, and she was the author was always fascinated by the ways in which terror and fortitude have shaped people, but the aunt never wanted to talk about that time there. And when the author told her UK editor about the idea, she suggested that she write about the Italian chapel in Orkney. And from the first time the author saw the pictures of the inside of the chapel, which again, you have got to go look up, but not during this presentation, she said she knew that she had found the right setting for the story. It's unbelievable. This is a beautiful book. 150,000 announced print. You're going to hear a lot about this, and it's The Metal Heart by Caroline Lee.
Okay, The Love Songs of W.E.B. Du Bois by Honoré Fanon Jeffers. This is another unforgettable novel that I was thrilled to read when it was just a manuscript. This is an epic debut in fiction that is for fans of Homegoing, The Turner House, and The Water Dancer, that essentially follows one family in the South through the generations. It actually starts in pre-colonial America and follows native populations and one individual whose offspring ultimately takes us to a young woman named Ailey, who is the daughter of an accomplished doctor and a school teacher who lives in the city in the South, but spends summers in a small Georgia town where her grandmother lives. And essentially what Ailey is dealing with is her family's lineage, what's spoken about, what's not, whether it's her ancestors who arrived from Africa in bondage, her Native American heritage, and how those all play together. So basically she has a feeling that there's something her family is not talking about, and she takes it upon herself to research her family. What secrets have they spoken about? What have they not? And how the South, the South is almost a character here, what part it has to play in all of this. It's just a really, again, epic, kind of ambitious novel that really is just unforgettable. It is one you put down and you'll just be thinking about throughout the day, and you'll be eager to return to it. So I highly recommend this special novel by Honoré Fanon Jeffers. That's The Love Songs of W.E.B. Du Bois.
Here, Right Matters by Alexander Vindman. On July 25th, 2019, then President Trump called Ukraine's President Zelensky, supposedly to congratulate him on his recent victory. In the months to follow, the American public would learn what only Alexander Vindman was courageous enough to bring to light. That on that call, the President of the United States exhorted a foreign ally to bring down a political challenger at home. Vindman's actions would lead to Trump's impeachment. It would also lead to the end of Vindman's decorated career in the U.S. Army in retribution for his public testimony before Congress. This is Alexander Vindman's memoir. It's a story about one man's sense of duty, honor, and remaining true to the idea of America, even as the President of the United States turned the weight of the administration against him. He has such a great immigrant story and a fascinating Army career, and the description of the events leading up to the infamous phone call with Zelensky is riveting. And it is also enraging because it's a very candid account of how, after his testimony at the impeachment hearings, his enemies within the Trump administration and the passivity of the military leadership basically forced him to retire. He's one of the many great public servants who were forced out of their jobs because of Trump's mendacity. He recalls his family's flight from the Soviet Union, the hardships and opportunities they found in Brooklyn, the education and military training he and his twin brother received, and it's the story of how he came to cherish American ideals, even at the cost of both his and his brother's careers. He was a recipient of the Purple Heart and most recently a director on the White House's National Security Council. Here, Right Matters is about the quiet heroes who keep us safe, but above all, it is a call to arms for those of us who refuse to let America betray its true self. As the editor of this book says, it's a damn good book that makes you believe in America again. That's Here, Right Matters by Alexander Vindman.
Okay, Island Queen by Vanessa Riley. So Vanessa Riley is an acclaimed romance novelist who is now introducing us to this sweeping historical novel based on the true life of Dorothy Thomas, who was a freedwoman of color who became one of the wealthiest and most powerful landowners in the colonial West Indies. So this is a novelized account of this incredible true woman who was born into slavery on the Caribbean island of Montserrat, and who eventually worked to buy her own freedom and that of her sister and mother, and then built, again, this incredible amount of wealth through her wits. She was an entrepreneur, a merchant, a hotelier, a planter, and just is incredibly successful against all the odds. This is 18th century, so this is the cards were stacked against her, and nonetheless, this larger-than-life woman rose to the occasion and left a mark. So yeah, just a lush, unforgettable story that has a lot of fans already, a lot of fantastic quotes. Chanel Clayton, who's the New York Times bestselling author of The Most Beautiful Girl in Cuba, says, richly detailed, vividly depicted, and sweeping in scope, Island Queen is historical fiction at its absolute finest. I think that says it all. So this is coming in July. That's Island Queen.
Okay, In Polite Company by Gervais Haggerty. So very exciting new voice. This is a debut novel set in Charleston. And so Simmons Smith was born into a powerful network that has quietly ruled the city for centuries. And she's walking into this arrogance. She's from an affluent family, and they have a great year coming up. Her older sister's going to give birth. Her younger sister makes her debut into society, and Simmons herself is due to marry Tripp. She hopes that a year is enough time to fall back in love with him. But they have an exciting year coming up, and she kind of is going through a time of change, and she doesn't really know where she fits in. So she goes to seek advice from her grandmother, Lottie, and they're born with the same traits. They're very they look the same, but they're also kind of rebellious in nature. And something has happened to Lottie in her youth that has really stunted her spirit, and she is dealing with that. And since then, she has a secret that no one knows, and so she kind of understands where she's coming, where Simmons is coming from. And a dramatic event threatens her Simmons' grandmother's life, and now she has decided if she's going to tell what happened all that time ago, and if she wants to keep it a secret. It's a very sparkling debut, and it's really just about finding yourself and where you fit in, and with a lot of expectations on you. How are you going to deliver? And it paints a really multifaceted view of Charleston that many might not know. That's really exciting because there are a lot of different types of people and places in this community, and it doesn't always get explored. So we're very excited about that. And this author herself, Gervais Haggerty, she is from a well-known family in Charleston. She was a debutante. Her mother was a famous poet, and she wrote a letter about Dorothea Benton Frank in our upcoming publication, Reunion Beach, which is, a beautiful collection honoring Dottie. And that's where the editor found out about this author, and she signed her for this first book, In Polite Company. And we're very excited to have another Southern South Carolinian author on our list, and that we have this huge void to fill, which we can never fill in Dottie's absence. But it is nice to have more Southern and Charleston authors coming in. Mary Alice Monroe, the author Mary Alice Monroe, said, "This is a stunning debut, gorgeously written, heartfelt and true. In Polite Company is a must-read this summer and any time of the year." And we're very excited to kind of continue on with this journey because we have her debut, and she's going to be hopefully doing great things. And this was a big get for us, and the editor just had her. She knows what she's doing, and we're very excited. So this is In Polite Company, Gervais Haggerty.
Okay, Downrange by Taylor Moore. So this is a thriller debut by a man who knows of which he writes. So this follows DEA agent Garrett Cole, who we're very excited about the introduction of this character, who's a DEA agent who is working in Afghanistan when he gets a special assignment back in Texas, where there seems to be some widespread corruption in the community that he actually calls home. And I just want to make a note about Taylor in that he knows what he writes. He is a sixth-generation Texan, grew up on a farm. He's also a former CIA intelligence officer who's consulted with the Department of Defense, amongst many others. So this is a gritty thriller that follows Garrett as he takes on this powerful businessman who is incredibly corrupt, but has infiltrated pretty much every aspect of this beloved Texas community in the high plains of Northwest Texas. And so Garrett is undermanned, outgunned, but he does have his wits and his training, and he knows this land better than anyone. The land is a character in this book, and he takes it upon himself to take this businessman and all his cronies down. So really, really fast-paced thriller from an exciting new voice in the genre. So that's Downrange by Taylor Moore.
A Double Life by Charlotte Philby. This is an espionage novel by the granddaughter of Kim Philby, Britain's most famous communist double agent. This features two women as the protagonists, a government negotiator and a local journalist. They take separate paths to discover a dark network of human trafficking and exploitation. We meet Gabriella, a senior negotiator in the Foreign and Commonwealth's Office Counterterrorism Unit, who runs a small and powerful team based in Whitehall. She's tenacious and hardworking and the family breadwinner. Her partner, Tom, a freelance architect, looks after their two children. When Gabriella returns from a 7-month stint in Moscow, something doesn't seem right. And Isabel, she's a journalist working for the local paper in Camden. Walking home from a party one night, she witnesses a horrific attack. But when someone has seen her, she is making themselves known in increasingly frightening ways. As Isabel starts to investigate, she uncovers a dark network of human trafficking and exploitation. While Gabriella's life begins to unravel, Isabel gets closer to the story. With one desperate to uncover the truth and the other determined to hide it, the two women's lives converge. The editor of this book says it's one of those books that just keeps you driving and staying up all night to read it. You won't go to bed. It's a clever blend of thriller and espionage with a neat twist on the domestic suspense genre, and it explores what makes a woman live a double life, giving a feminist spin on a classic male trope. The reviews in the UK are stellar. This is a Harper 360 from our Harper 360 imprint. The reviews in the UK are great. They're comparing her to Patricia Highsmith. She's being named to the Times best books from last summer. The Observer says, Philby explores why a woman might find herself living two lives. Gabriella is gloriously dislikable and easy to judge, but is also terribly compelling, and her downward spiral towards disaster is persuasive and absorbing. Super fun and twisty. A Double Life by Charlotte Philby.
Okay, Palm Beach by Mary Adkins. We're very excited because this is the third book from Mary. If you didn't read when you read this, finish this webinar and then immediately go read it. It was so amazing. And all of her work is just a treat to read. And so we welcome her back for this book. It's a little different, but it's still in her where her sweet spot is, which I'll get into in a minute. So this is a story about Mickey and Rebecca, and after the arrival of their baby son, they're 30-something New Yorkers, and they leave their tiny apartment in Queens. He's an actor, she's a freelance journalist, and they're going to leave this apartment and go live in Palm Beach. They're going to get away. And Mickey has taken up a sweet new job managing the household of a multimillionaire. And while he's there for a very short amount of time, he is immediately snapped up by this billionaire who lives nearby and wants to get his services. So he leaves that job very quickly and goes to this next one and is quickly brought into this extravagant life, kind of doing everything man for them and getting it done. Rebecca's a writer, and she often covers economic inequality. And so she, just like everyone else, is very surprised when she takes a job ghostwriting for this billionaire's wife. And it's not really something she thought she'd ever do, but money is great, and she's going to be able to bring her son in to work with her. And now they're both in this house of a crazy rich family, and it's topsy-turvy, and they're pulled into their secrets, and things happen, and it really tests their principles for when a crisis hits, what they will do for them. And she does it, like I said, this is really her sweet spot. She does a great job exploring relationships and privilege and power dynamics, and this is right where she thrives. And like I said, it's such a treat to read her, and we love Mary, and we hope you pick up Palm Beach, coming out in August.
An Unlikely Spy by Rebecca Starford. This is debut fiction and a fresh take on World War II historical suspense. This is inspired by the real story of Joan Miller. She was a woman who was recruited into MI5 in her early 20s, and she was tasked with infiltrating groups sympathetic to the Nazis. So this novel traces the path of Evelyn Varley, a bright young woman who is recruited into MI5 during World War II for a daring attempt to expose a secret society of fascist British elites supporting Hitler. Evelyn gains a best friend from one of England's wealthiest families as a scholarship student. She graduates Oxford in 1939 at the beginning of the war and is approached about posing as a Nazi sympathizer to infiltrate upper-class society and expose the treachery of this group. But doing that will involve treachery of her own and challenge the very idea of loyalty. Her decisions will echo for years after the war, impacting many who thought they knew her. Great writing and page-turning plotting. This is an intricate thriller for fans of The Women in the Castle, The Alice Network, and Lilac Girls. It's great for book clubs and for fans of suspense and historical fiction. The author's research included many hours reading declassified intelligence documents at the National Archives in London. You can see the Pam Jenoff quote there, so I won't read that to you. Many more quotes can be found on Edelweiss, but I love this one by Hannah Kent, partly that says, "What a rare treat to find a novel that offers both white-knuckled suspense and evocative, beautiful prose." I loved it. An Unlikely Spy by Rebecca Starford.
Okay. Hairpin Bridge by Taylor Adams, another author who just knocks it out of the park every time. I love his work. If you read No Exit, that came before this book, you'll know, and I know several of you really want to get your hands on this book, and I know I have a list, and hopefully soon. Galleys are soon, I promise. So this is psychological suspense at its finest. Taylor Adams can write the biggest thrills and bone-chilling scenes, and he's back. I couldn't put this story down, and you know, he writes these female heroines that are just larger than life and so, you know, they have a power behind them that they maybe are discovering within themselves. And so in this story, we see Lena Nguyen. She, 3 months ago, her twin sister, Cambry, drove off to a remote bridge 60 miles outside of Missoula, Montana, jumped 200 feet to her death off this hairpin bridge. And that's the official police version. But Lena doesn't buy it. And so now she's been gifted her sister's car that was there on that night. She's taken over. Everything of her sister's is still in it. And she's going to drive and take her sister's last drive and figure out what happened. So she gets there, and the highway patrolman, Raymond Racevic, is there, and he seems like he's helping her, and she's going to get there. But something about his story doesn't really add up. Most of all, there is a final text that Cambry has sent her sister that says, "Please forgive me. I couldn't live with it. Hopefully you can, Officer Racevic." So I mean, he's implicated. Now we have to figure out why. So Lena is searching, and now her own survival is at stake. Taylor blends the darker details and with the pulse-pounding narrative. Like I said, strong heroines, and it's just a wild ride, and you want to ride it. It's so fun. So Hairpin Bridge, Taylor Adams. And me again. So we have a true crime / memoir biography for you. So this is My Brother the Killer by Alex Sharkey. So Alex began his writing career at ID Magazine. He became the co-editor there, and he spent 3 decades in journalism covering lots of things, including crime, popular culture. And this is a true story about he and his brother. So it starts off when they're younger in southeast England, and it's a very gritty area. Alex and his younger brother, Stuart, grew up in all of their charismatic yet violent father, who was an alcoholic. And as they are growing up, there are a lot of things where they diverged. And most importantly, it's very pointed about the 2 different roads that they took, especially while growing up. It's a lot about how they grew up. And his brother Stuart, Alex's brother Stuart, is currently incarcerated in Britain's most notorious high security prison and he's awaiting imminent parole. But 20 years ago, as they were growing up, their paths diverged, and he was convicted of the kidnapping and murder of his 15-year-old niece, Danielle, the daughter of his wife's brother. It's very personal, this book. And, you know, I'm a true crime fan, but I think this case is really well known in the UK, but it's not so much about the crime specifically. It's really about the brother and brother's relationships and discovering what happened to make them go on these two very different paths. And he knows it's very complicated, but he also had a close relationship with his brother. And so to know that is very hard for him. But it's also about his attempt to ask his brother to provide any details, because he's kind of tight-lipped right now about anything that happened. And he wants to give family closure. And so what that is, there's like kind of a mystery in there as well of what happened. And like I said, interested in how these two different children grew up, and how their roads diverged. So that's My Brother, the Killer by Alex Sharkey.
Okay, and I'm looking at the time. It's 20 to 3. We have 9 titles left. I think we're going to do it. Here we go. Homegrown Hero by Khurram Rahman. This is a follow-up to East of Hounslow, which B.A. Paris called an excellent book and phenomenal writing. It's a sharp, funny thriller series based in London, and features a former small-time Muslim drug dealer pressed into service as an MI op. East of Hounslow was the first in the series, and it's on the short list for the Edgars and Best Paperback Original. So we meet Jay Kasem, and he is back in West London in pursuit of normality. He has swapped dope dealing for admin and spends his free time at the local Muslim community center, cruising around Hounslow in his beloved BMW. No one would guess that he was the MI5 spy who foiled the most devastating terrorist attack in recent history. But Jay's part in sabotaging a hit on London did not pass unnoticed. Imran Siddiqui was trained to kill in Afghanistan by the terrorist cell who saved his life after his home was destroyed by war. This time has finally come for him to repay them, throwing him headlong into the path of Jay Kasem. Now they must decide, each of them has to decide whose side are they really on. This is the second in the series. The third in the series is called Ride or Die. That's coming out in April 2022. Think The Italian Job or Get Carter. If they were based in London and featured a small-time Muslim drug dealer, this would be it. If your patrons want mysteries that are culturally forward-thinking and a little out of the box, this is the series for you. It's thrillers for a new generation. It's something completely different, brilliantly brave, utterly refreshing, and with the edginess and dark humor of Breaking Bad. And it's an Own Voices book too. The author is a British Muslim born in Pakistan and raised in the UK. His voice is as authentic as it is engaging. There's a really cool video of him talking about the role that the library in the borough of Hounslow played in his life. He says, it's been my place to be for the last 35 years. It's really cool. Check him out and check out this series. That's Homegrown Hero by Khurram Rahman.
Okay. Edge Case by Y.Z. Chen. This is a debut literary novel that takes a really sharp look at immigration, working with a green card, and the dissolution of a marriage. So with a very kind of witty, unique voice at its core. So this follows Edwina, who is the sole female employee at a New York City tech startup, who comes home one day to find her husband has packed up a suitcase and left her behind with no explanation as to why. So you follow Edwina as she kind of is going back and forth in time in her own mind. She's wandering around New York, wondering and looking for her husband, Marlon, while also trying to navigate the complicated culture of a tech startup at which she works. She's getting unwanted advances from a coworker. Again, she is the sole female at this startup. And she's also dealing with the stress of constantly attempting to get a green card and continually failing, and the stress that goes along with that. So it's, again, a literary, beautifully told look at Edwina, her life, and the life of a young tech startup female. There's just so much going on in this book. It's so smart and quirky at its same time. And I do think she's going to be a big voice moving forward in this realm. Again, it's just like an offbeat, compelling narrator that I continue to think about. So that is Edge Case by Y.Z. Chen, and it is coming in August.
I Couldn't Love You More by Esther Freud. This is for fans of Tessa Hadley. This is a beautifully Someone's a fire somewhere.
I'm sorry. I'm going to mute myself. I apologize.
That's okay. This is a wonderful, beautiful story about 3 generations of women back and forth between London and Ireland. So it starts in London in 1960. We meet Aoife Kelly. She was once the sparkling object of young men's affection, but now she's with this very brush, barking husband, Cash. Their courtship began in wartime London before they returned to Ireland with their daughters in tow. One of these daughters, fiery, independent-minded Russeline, moves back to London, where she meets and begins an affair with the famous sculptor Felix Lehmann. He's a German Jew refugee artist over twice her tender age of 18. He's just there's a big age gap between the two of them, but they get together. When she finds herself pregnant with this child, she's evicted from her flat, dismissed from her job, and desperate to hide the secret from her family. Where and to whom can she turn? Then, another generation down, we meet Kate. She lives in present-day London with her young daughter and husband, who is a destructive alcoholic. Adopted and floundering to find a sense of herself in the midst of her unhappy marriage, she sets out to track down her birth mother, bringing the story back to Ireland and the generations full circle. The search also leads her to the Magdalene Laundry in Ireland and the harrowing history that it holds. Those were the asylums that were institutions that were, usually run by the Roman Catholic orders, and they were to house fallen, quote unquote, fallen women who were confined in these institutions in Ireland. So all of that is going on. It is nostalgic, it's propulsive, it's tender, it's about love and motherhood and family ties. It's impossible not to just take a deep dive. There are a ton of raves about this book. Julia Rakoff says, I just started and love. I feel I say this with each of her books. This may be my favorite. I just want to read this one, Hannah Rothschild. In this fascinating novel, Freud interweaves the stories of a daughter, mother, and grandmother to show how past hurts and dreams drip down through generations. I love that line. The women's characters and circumstances are beautifully evoked, as are their struggles not to be defined by men or convention. Freud knits their plights together to create an utterly readable and compelling narrative. Echo, the imprint that's publishing this book, has published 6 of her 9 novels, including her breakout debut, Hideous Kinky. And if you go to the next slide, you can see that we're repackaging all of these and timed to the new book. So lots of book club stuff here. I think that these are absolutely gorgeous. And Esther Freud is just a wonderful writer. And this is a book that you won't soon forget. So that's I Couldn't Love You More by Esther Freud.
Okay, next is Vessel by Tsai Chongda. And just to be clear here, Tsai is his surname, Chongda is his given name. And Chongda is a fascinating person. This book was actually published in China in 2014, where it sold more than 3 million copies. And we're really excited to bring it here. This is a memoir in the vein of Hillbilly Elegy and The Glass Castle that follows Chongda's journey. He grew up in a fishing village in the Fujian province in China, and his father, who was a former communist gang leader who owned a gas station, has a stroke. And suddenly Chongda has to kind of bear all the responsibilities, financial responsibilities for his family. So eventually Chongda is working through school. He travels to Beijing to better financially support his family, and he becomes a director of GQ China, the youngest person to hold that position in history of the publication. And he is now finding himself kind of at odds with the family he knows. Again, they're rural. They're definitely, kind of removed from the culture of a magazine like GQ. And he is kind of battling, how to stay true to himself and who he is, while also, not approaching his family with judgment, but also realizing how different he is from them. So it's a really, I think, forward-thinking book. Again, it's not judgmental. It's very real, very raw, and beautifully told. And it's just, a really exciting publication that we can bring to life here in the States. So that is Vessel by Tsai Chongda, and that is coming in July. Okay, this is a really fun publication. I love Francine prose. I know many of you are huge fans as well. The Vixen. So this is a historical novel that brings to mind some of Francine's most popular works, including Lovers at the Chameleon Club, Paris, 1932, which was a New York Times bestseller. And this novel starts in 1953, right on the heels of the trial and execution of Ethel and Julius Rosenberg. And you follow Simon, who just graduated from Harvard and was hired by a distinguished New York publishing firm, whose first job is a challenging one in that he is editing a novel, a romance novel, based on the trial and execution of Ethel and Julius Rosenberg. It's titled The Vixen, the Patriot, and the Fanatic. And what Simon doesn't tell anyone is that at the height of the Red Scare and all the McCarthy hearings, his mother, who he's very close with, was a childhood friend of Ethel Rosenberg's, and his parents mourn her death. So he is navigating kind of, old school publishing culture, whiskey, three martini lunches, and so much more, while also being, aware of his middle class family in Coney Island. So it's kind of, there's a ticking clock element to this. It's kind of propulsive. It's hilarious, but also speaks to so many of the issues we see today as well. But a really fascinating look. And you also get passages from this, they call it a bodice ripper. I don't know how y'all feel about that, but it's a very poorly written romance novel, and you get little sections of that as well, which is hilarious. This novel really has it all. I just think Francine is a one-of-a-kind author. Maria Semple calls this a rollicking trickster of a novel, wondrously funny and wickedly addictive. So this is coming in June 29th. That's The Vixen by Francine Prose.
The Godmothers by Camille Aubray. This is from the author of Cooking for Picasso, which had been chosen by People magazine for picks of the best new books. It received rave reviews, including this one from Margaret Atwood, who called it a tasty blend of romance, mystery, and French cooking. Read on. Ms. Aubray now delivers a great female bonding story filled with the glamour of old New York, Godfather-like intrigue, and a fresh spin on the World War II home front novel. It's a suspenseful story set in World War II era Greenwich Village about 4 women, 3 who marry into a prosperous Italian family, and the other woman is the daughter of the family. They have to take charge of their families when their husbands leave for war. We meet Philomena, who is a clever and resourceful war refugee with a childhood secret, who comes to America to wed Mario, the family's favored son. Ami, a beautiful and dreamy French girl from upstate New York, escapes an abusive husband after falling in love with Johnny, the oldest of the brothers. And Lucy, a tough-as-nails Irish nurse, ran away from a strict girls' home and marries Frankie, the sensuous middle son, and the glamorous Patrina, the family's only daughter. She graduates with honors from Barnard College despite a past trauma that nearly caused a family scandal. All 4 of these women become godmothers to one another's children, finding hope and shelter in this prosperous family with their sumptuous Greenwich Village home, enjoying New York life with its fine dining and opulent department stores and sophisticated nightclubs. But the women's secret pasts lead to unforeseen consequences and betrayals that threaten to unravel all their carefully laid plans. And when the husbands are forced to leave them during the war, the godmothers must unexpectedly contend with notorious gangsters like Frank Costello and Lucky Luciano, who run the streets of New York City. They refuse to merely imitate the world of men. The 4 godmothers learn to put aside their differences and grudges so that they can work together to protect their loved ones and to find their own unique paths to success, love, forgiveness, and the futures they've always dreamed of. This is The Godmothers by Camille Aubray. Expect to hear more about this book in the coming months. It's really wonderful.
Okay, The Fiancé by Kate White. We love Kate White. I know you do too. She is a New York Times bestselling author of both the Bailey Wiggins mystery series as well as standalones, of which we can count The Fiancé amongst them. Always good to have a standalone to introduce new readers and old readers alike. This is very much for fans of Lucy Foley's The Guest List and Ruth Ware's One by One, in that it is somewhat of a locked room mystery. It all takes place on this rural Pennsylvania estate, and you follow Summer, who is married to Gabe, and Gabe has a 9-year-old son from a previous marriage, and all three are going to Gabe's estate here in Pennsylvania, and it's a big family gathering. There's tennis, there's rest and relaxation, gourmet meals, and also a surprise engagement by Gabe's brother Nick and his new flame, who's also an actress. And Hannah actually is her name. And so Summer actually recognizes Hannah when she's first introduced, but Hannah seemingly has no idea who Summer is. But one day, a sudden tragedy strikes when a family member is found dead in this gathering. But what I think is really cool about this twist is doctors attribute this to natural causes. So no one, while they're grief-stricken, no one suspects much more than that. Though Summer is convinced that there's something more at play, and someone knows that Summer knows. So it's a really fun cat and mouse chase as you try to figure out who amongst this gathering is the murderer, and can Summer convince anyone that she's not just making this up. It's a really, really cool take again on the locked room mystery, and I do definitely think of the guest list, but I do love that element that everyone thinks is a natural cause, but maybe it's not. So that's The Fiance by revered mystery author Kate White, and it's coming June 29th.
Okay, Nobody, Somebody, Anybody by Kelly McClory. This is another debut with a cover that fully represents my feelings some days. Amy Harney in this story has a job as a chambermaid in the summer, but in August she's going to take the exam to become an EMT, third time's the charm, and finally move on with her life. And, you know, she's working very hard. She is studying, maybe not. Maybe I'm being sarcastic. She serves the rich guests of the yacht club, but she also finds that she would much rather watch them out the window and observe them, or watch TV while she's cleaning. Her hobbies include getting to her home before her landlord gets home and to get his mail so she can steam it open to see if he's writing to his fiance that is overseas in the Ukraine. So, you know, she's very busy, can't study. And she feels very isolated and out of place, but she decides that to get her life on track, she's going to concoct this placebo program, a self-prescribed regimen for her confidence, devised to trick herself into succeeding. And her landlord slowly starts inviting her over to meet this fiance before the visa goes through. And so she starts making friends. She's also dealing with the loss of her mother's passing. So these are the first friends she's making. You know, it's darkly comedic, but really tender, and it explores isolation and grief and delusion, and the search for connection. And it's based on the author. The idea for this was based on the author's own experience working as a maid in Massachusetts for a summer. Go to Edelweiss and look at the behind the book because it's very funny. And it's just about how we get through the absurd, funny circumstances, but, you know, life moves on. And Kristen Arnett, the author of Mostly Dead Things, said a beautiful book about very messy people. And I love that. So that's Nobody, Somebody, Anybody, Kelly McClory. And then I think bringing us on home, the last title is Aria's Traveling Bookshop by Rebecca Raisin. Have you ever wanted to give it all up to run a bookshop out of a van? Well, I have the perfect escape fantasy read for you. This follows Aria Summers. She travels with her best friend Rosie, who you might remember in the previous novel, Rosie's Traveling Tea Shop, coming out this month, actually, by Rebecca. And so they're best friends, and they have these campers that they've turned into different stores. So Aria's is a van with a bookshop, and she's just getting over the death of her beloved husband and isn't looking for love. Well, that's when she finds it, right? So enter Jonathan, and as she gets to know him, she tries to forget him. She's going to go off to France for the summer with Rosie to sell things, but then she gets an unexpected package from her late husband's mom, and it's a diary. And now she may be on more than just a road trip journey to figure out her loss and if she's ready to love again. So it's very heartwarming. And, you know, explores love in very different ways. Friendship, love, grief, love, and new emerging love. So, like I said, you'll recognize some of the characters, but you don't have to read them in order. You can dive right into this one. And that's it, I think, book-wise.
What? We're done? How can we not have a Bookmobile love story? We should have a Library Love Fest Bookmobile. I've always thought that would be fun. Well, everyone, yeah, Lainey, let's come back on. Chris, there we are. I think toggle my video. Sounds. I don't know what it sounds like. All right, I don't know what's happening. I'm not coming down there. Thank you all very much for hanging in there with us 2 hours. We again are so sorry about our author not being able to plug in, but we will get that to you. We'll get that video to you. There are more books here that we would talk about if we had more time. Do you guys want to just, Craig Melvin from the Today Show is talking about fatherhood, and Amanda Klutz talks about she's a new host of one of the new hosts of The View, and this is her story about her life with her husband who sadly passed away from COVID. Lainey, you guys want to keep moving some slides along just to show everybody what we've got? These are all books that we're going to do this again, and so we'll make sure that everybody knows, because these are the fall books, and we've got time for that. But we've got A.J. Verdell, and we've got Wiley Cash, Kimberly McCrate. I mean, these are all such wonderful books, and we can't wait to talk more about them with you. But I think we filled your head with a ton of books right now. Next slide. What do we have? We'll keep on going. Oh, should we take 1 second to talk about this? Should we talk about the lead read? Lainey, why don't you tell them about the lead read for the new season?
Definitely. We're very excited to announce our new lead read title for the fall, All Her Little Secrets by Wanda M. Morris. You see her in the middle and our lead read logo. And the two beside it, somebody had mentioned to us that they like to know what the other two in the three that we vote on, which is a program the Salesforce does. We all vote on a title we're going to get behind for the season. So those are the other two on their left and right, in case you're interested. That information's available. But just quickly, this is a debut thriller, very exciting. It has to do with corporate politics and tokenism and code switching in the workplace, about a lawyer who has a past and turns up and her boss is shot when she gets to work, and now she's on the run and has to decide how she's going to get around that, but also maybe some past is coming back, and she's got to solve a mystery too. So it's such a thrilling read, and I know, Virginia, you love it.
When I was reading it, I just kept thinking, this can't be a debut. It can't be. And it's great because she starts out in her childhood, and it's there for a reason, because it's not a good childhood. And then she has sort of a guardian angel who ushers her through, and she's also a very smart person, and so she becomes who she becomes. But your past is your past. It's a great book. It's a great read. I'm so excited, to have a debut as a lead read is really, really cool. So, and the others are wonderful too. Fault Lines and Sea State, that we put them up there, as Lainey said, because we want you to know about those too. Because for the Salesforce to be talking about all these books and then you winnow it down to just these three, it's tough call, but they're all wonderful. So you'll be hearing more about these books in the coming months. And next, I think we just wanted to, we put in some health books. And again, all of this is on your grid and your handouts, but these are books that, sort of address a lot of different issues, and that's important. So there you go. Chris, Lainey, if you feel like jumping in about anything, just do it. Otherwise, we'll just keep on going and talk about some big books. Daniel Silva, An Ugly Truth, Kathy Wang, Imposter Syndrome. She was the author of Family Trust. The Happiest Man on Earth by Eddie Jaku he's 100 years old. There's a TED Talk. If you want to just have your hair blown back again, go find Eddie Jaku, Jaku, TED Talk, 100 years old, talking about his experiences in Auschwitz and how he calls himself the happiest man on earth. This is an enlightened human being, and I could listen to him all day. He is alive and well, thankfully, and we have his book. And fans of The Office, we're doing a book about an oral history of The Office. Guys, anything else I'm missing? Or shout out?
The Chicago Stars book from Susan Elizabeth Phillips. Very excited.
Love her.
D.L. Hughley. Oh, love him. His last book was so amazing. We're excited for this one, too.
Next, Joyce Carol Oates. My goodness. Tamron Hall. That's going to be super fun.
Fiction. It's fiction.
What's that?
It's fiction too.
Yeah.
I don't know if they can.
That's cool. And American Portrait is sort of a drop in. PBS is doing this whole series. You've probably already seen some of it, but it's this is a tie-in to that series, and it's all about Americans, and it's fascinating. Once you start watching it, you can't stop because everybody's got a role in their life. Everybody's living their lives, doing the best that they can. And these are, I don't know, they're just, the veil is pulled back and you're looking in to see how people make it. This is a great series and this is a great book. So you need to know about that. Patricia Cornwell.
Yeah.
You go, Chris.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to mention we do have a new Karen Slaughter standalone coming, which is very exciting. And if any of you have been keeping tabs on the Pieces of Her TV adaptation, that's going to be on Netflix. We don't have a date yet, except for that, but they did announce the cast, which is very exciting.
Toni Collette.
There's a link for you guys in the title list.
Yeah,
Toni Collette. Oh my God, it's going to be great.
She's amazing.
Yeah.
So, but always exciting to have a new standalone from Karen Slaughter. So.
And Jeffrey Archer. That's big news that we've got Jeffrey Archer over my dead body. Big deal. And Bourdain, the oral biography by Laurie Woolover, who was his co-writer, who picked up the gauntlet and finished the book that will be coming out. When is that book coming out? April. Okay. But this one's not till later. And Dream Girl, Laura Lippman. Oh my God, we're so excited. This is sort of like I don't know. What am I trying to think of? It's I can't think of it. I don't want to say Mystic River. I want to say the other thing, and it's gone right out of my head. But anyway, it's about it's a Misery. I knew it wasn't Mystic River. It's Misery. And it's about a novelist who's incapacitated by injury and is plagued by these mysterious phone calls. And is this person losing his mind or somebody out to get him? What else do we have? I think that's it. I think we're wrapping up. It's 3:05. Oh, HarperCollins Espanol. We have a lot, and we will be back to talk about more books. But we want to thank you all so much for spending time with us these last 2 hours, listening to us, and thank you for your comments. As always, we are going to be doing this again and again, and so we want to give you what you need. I did see one comment. I think somebody wished there was a little more nonfiction. Let's be open here and tell us. If we're too heavy on fiction and you want more nonfiction, tell us. We're happy to give you what you need, you know? So please, we're going to do the work anyway. We want to make sure that you have what you need for your patrons and for your shelves. So don't be shy, please. Write to us and tell us what you think. And constructive criticism isn't really criticism at all, I don't think. I think you're helping us so we can help you. Okay, so thank you for that. Anything else, you guys?
Yeah, any comments? I mean, you guys asked for large print editions, so that's why we put them on the slide. So if that's helpful to you, we're happy to include things, and yeah, let us know.
Yeah. And we'll be sending a follow-up. So if you're feeling shy or something comes to you later, look for our email and please feel free to respond and communicate via that as well. So be on the lookout for that. We'll give you the slides and title list and all of that fun stuff. So
great.
Yeah, thank you everyone for the feedback.
We're seeing comments here about nonfiction. So we will definitely tweak our next presentation to make sure that perhaps we have a little bit more nonfiction in there for sure. And as Chris said, don't be shy. It's us. So with that, at 3:07, I think we did pretty well. We thank you again. Email us, call us, stop by our houses. Don't. Just take care of yourselves. Be well. Stay safe. And one day soon, hopefully, we'll see each other and touch each other. Can't do it anymore. But hey, we have this. Aren't we lucky?
Truly.
All right. And with that, we say so long. Take care. Thank you again.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.